even want an intro. So usually what we do is we just keep talking through the pre-stream banter and like the show actually starting. And then I just wait for people to roll in. And once I see a few people watching, then I kind of roll into like a, hey, welcome. Blah, 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 blah.
So do you see like comments and shit that are coming in from
you guys should be able to click on comments too and see that. And then I don't think it tells you guys how many people are watching, but it tells me how many people are watching.
I mean, we could theoretically pull up a YouTube
which right
link
now is a big fat
I have to
zero.
exit full screen. Yeah, it's because you started late.
I started on time for what I said on Facebook and Twitter. I'm actually 15 minutes early for what was on YouTube because YouTube said 9:15.
All right, no one likes to show off. So it's an IPA kind of night. I'm drinking some Voodoo Ranger. I see Ben has the.
I have Perrier.
I thought you were drinking a White Claw.
No. Caffeine and yerba mate, pomegranate. There's no alcohol in this.
Jacob, like a couple weeks ago, I watched one of your podcasts, and usually I listen to them. I don't watch a lot of podcasts, to be honest with you, just because I work from home, so it's easier to listen. But I watched one of your podcasts, and I was pretty sure that you were just drinking from like a whole bottle of wine during that podcast. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes. That is a very accurate statement.
Are you drinking another one tonight with us? Because, dude, I got a big beer. I brought a big beer for this.
Oh God. I don't know if
I'll be the sober one tonight.
Wait, how does that happen?
I don't know, man. That's not how it's supposed to work.
I'm the Christian anarchist, and Anthony is Anthony.
I'm the borderline libertine, fucking stoner.
Anthony actually used to be a Christian anarchist, so
yeah, I'm gonna get you on my personal show sometime to talk about that stuff.
I've watched that episode,
bro. I would love to do it because I have some serious you and I would have fun together on your show. I wouldn't do that to people here because we have an explicit purpose here, but
yeah, no,
we should make that happen.
Yeah.
Also, you've hung out with me in person. You know I'm a good fucking time.
Yeah, my wife remembers you as the guy who took the phone from me while I was talking to her at the PA convention and talked about my ass and how much you wanted to fondle and caress.
Yeah, I told his wife I was gonna fuck him in the butt while she wasn't there. Hey,
all right,
Audrey, what does that say about you? That's all I'm gonna say.
It tells you.
It takes one to know one.
I'm fun, right? Here's one of my funniest stories, and Adam Nutter tells it better than me. But Jacob was at the table for Adam's hilarious story about being the voice of reason while I was like being loud as shit and there was family eating dinner. And Kyle Matovic, who, can we just for a second while we're live and this is being recorded, what a bunch of fucking faggots, right? All week they were like, yo, we'll be there. And Kyle's like, sorry boys, I'm in Florida. Adam's like, sorry, got something better to do. Pussies.
Actually, I think he did say he was going to be in Florida, but Adam said he was going to be here tonight, and he disappointed us. But that's per usual. It's kind of like when Adam says, when Adam says he's going to do comedy, and then he just gets up there and talks about his dick for 90 minutes and pretends he's that's funny. So, but all right,
no comment.
No comment.
You called him a disappointment, and I was going to say, have you seen his act?
All right. Well, we got some people watching now, so good evening, those of you who are rolling in now.
How many people?
It's a handful. We got 3, 4. It's like coming. It's like 3, and then it's 5. Now it's back at 4. So people are kind of tuning in and out. But this is the Take Human Action PA Mises Caucus podcast. So I'm with 2 new co-hosts tonight. We're going to have like a revolving door of different hosts for this show going forward, just because like a lot of us are so busy. Some of us have our own shows, and so it's kind of hard to devote a lot of time to this, but we think that this is important. We want to showcase what's going on in PA with our candidates, with our issue coalitions, and interview interesting people, have interesting conversations. You're going to see more content rolling out here soon. I got two new people to this show, people that I know pretty well, but I'm going to introduce them and have them. Well, actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves for y'all. Let's start with Ben. Ben, how you doing tonight? And go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you and your background.
Cool. Okay, so wait, do you want me to like kind of talk about how I found the Mises Caucus too and stuff?
Yeah, riff about whatever you want. How you found,
Yeah,
how you
cool.
found, how when did you discover Ron Paul as your Lord and Savior?
Okay. So yeah, my name is Benjamin Price Heckman. That is my full legal name.
Wow,
that's
I live
dope.
in.
I like that.
Thank you. I live in Pennsylvania. I am a Libertarian Party activist, former Young Americans for Liberty state chair, and I'm a musician as well. Yeah, I just I discovered the Mises Caucus probably about a year and a half ago now, I think. And I just I joined the Libertarian Party on my 18th birthday a few years ago, and for a couple years, I was kind of disappointed because I joined the party very excited, and then I just kind of saw that we were really useless. And then at first I was kind of not a fan of the Mises Caucus, and then I talked to Michael Heiss. I talked to Dave Smith a little bit, and my perspective kind of changed. I actually listened to what these people had to say, rather than going off of what other people had to say.
And then you heard that
them.
we were actually bigots and that we actually wanted to implement Jim Crow, and you were like, "Damn, that's based. I'm gonna join."
Yeah, no, this is like the end of the libertarian to alt-right pipeline now. Like I'm at the alt-right part now. No. In all seriousness, I think the Mises Caucus is the purpose seems to me, at least, it seems to be to give the LP like a very well-deserved kick in the ass. And I'm really down for it because it's all the Ron Paul people. I was way too young to like know who Ron Paul was or like understand what the Federal Reserve even was when he ran for president, because I'm 22. And I think he ran in 08 and 12. I had no idea what was going on back then. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Ron Paul, and I definitely look up to him a lot. But I would say that he's probably not my biggest influence. I would say that would probably that title would probably go to like someone like Dave Smith or something. But yeah, so that's
so Ron Paul 2.0.
Yeah, literally Ron Paul 2.0, the Jewish version.
Right, yeah. I think you got the Jewish version off wish.com.
Oh, that's great.
Oh gosh. Yeah, no, I was like I was like in high school when Ron Paul was a big thing, but I was
how old
politically,
are you, Jacob?
Gosh, I'm 29. No, I'm 30 now. Sorry, I'm 30 now. So yeah, I mean, I graduated in 11, so I guess I was, an adult for his 2012 campaign. But I remember the first time I heard of him, I was in speech and debate in high school, and I remember when we were talking about Ron Paul and like our team captain was telling me about his views, and he was like, hey, and this crazy, mofo wants to abolish the IRS. I was like, oh man, that's freaking crazy. and now I'm just like, oh, interesting. So yeah, no, I know what you mean though. Like sometimes like some people go on and on about Ron Paul, and it's like, no, I look back and I go, wow, damn, like that guy was freaking based.
Dude, I wish I was part of that movement.
Yeah, I know.
Really
it's like I do. Yeah.
He was Nostradamus. If you think about it.
I saw
it's not even my turn. I'll get there in a minute.
No, but he's like, if I told you so was a person. I didn't come up with that. That was a meme. Like, so right, accurate. It's so accurate.
True story.
All right, Anthony. How do you pronounce it? Porteau. Okay. I always say Portillo.
I'm an Argentine American.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So, white people generally don't say my name right, but I'm Anthony Porteau. I'm the Eastern Vice Chair of the Pennsylvania Libertarian Party. I'm a product of Native American grandfather on one side who grew up on reservation. Other side, grandfather from Argentina, father from Argentina. My grandfather's second wife was from communist Cuba. That's my abuela growing up. I didn't figure out that was his second wife until I was like a teenager. So growing up, she would tell me about growing up in communist Cuba. She grew up in a house with her parents and 11 siblings where they had a 1-bedroom apartment. Her parents slept in the bedroom, and every once in a while, aunts and uncles would come and sleep in the bedroom with them. And the kids had a pattern in which they slept on the floor, so they all had space. It's the craziest shit I ever heard. When I was 19 years old, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment that I paid $625 a month for. I'm a Latino kid, so all my tias and my abuela come to my house to bring me food and see what my apartment looks like. My Cuban aunt literally cried when she realized that I had 2 rooms in my house. She was crying, and I was like, what's that about? Like, what's wrong? And she was like, you made it. You're successful. This is, and she was so astonished that I had a spare room in my house, because to her, she thought I was a millionaire. That's how she grew up. So I've had people my entire life who gave me a healthy distrust of government. So the first 2 books I ever bought on Amazon were The Secrets of Methamphetamine Manufacture by Uncle Fester and The Anarchist Cookbook, which is bullshit. But I'm also 39. I'm going to be 40 this year. So I have you guys like numbered by some years. I graduated in 2000 when like everybody thought the world was going to explode because of Y2K. That was my senior year of high school. They were like, computers can't figure out the year 2000. We're all going to die. And then September 11th happened. And I had actually enlisted in the Army, but got kicked out because I was on drugs in the Army. And so I don't ever consider myself a veteran or anything like that. Like, I tried and was like, hey, drugs are more fun than the Army. I got kicked out. It's whatever. And then September 11th happened. But I also know guys who died because of September 11th. And in my opinion, that was all bullshit. I'm not going to get into shit that's going to get us kicked off YouTube. But that was the fucking Vietnam of my life, right? Like, I was 18 years old. I just became an adult, and I'm being told by all the powers that be that terrorists just murdered 3,500 people in a place that's like an hour drive from me. But I also watched the coverage for like 2 weeks straight and heard all the things live in real time and then saw the story afterwards. So that distrust for government continued. I've been registered Libertarian since I was registered to vote. And generally, I vote Libertarian down ticket. Just because I've had experience with Republicans. My ex-wife was a Republican committee woman who was running for election in 2016. So like I've been at a country club with a bunch of old rich people drinking $100 shots of scotch, chanting "lock her up" about an old lady just like them, who's probably the same war criminal they would be if they were in power. It was a surreal situation. But also, I saw the candidates the Libertarian Party ran. Right? So like Gary Johnson, his Aleppo moment sucked, but he also picked Bill Weld. Right? So it's like, hey, bro, I voted for Gary Johnson reluctantly. And then in 2020, you give me fucking Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or Joe Jorgensen, or I'm sorry, 20, right? You give me those people, and I'm like, honestly, a vote for Joe Jorgensen is a wasted vote. The Libertarian Party in 2020 made me vote for Donald Trump. Now, I see Mike Heiss and Dave Smith on Tim Pool. I followed Dave Smith since the beginning of Legion of Skanks because I'm in the comedy world and I had a comedy podcast back in the day. So I've known Dave Smith forever. I found part of the problem, like kind of when he first started it, because of Legion of Skanks. So I see what's happening now, and I see these guys, and I'm like, hey, maybe it's time I do something. And right away, every single person I met, I was like, this is a motherfucker I could get down with. These are my people. And they were like, hey, you want to run for Eastern Vice Chair? And I was like, hold on, you're going to let me act a fool in front of 400 people and win a contest that's going to be handed to me? Let's go, right? and since then, I've been all in. I am telling you, I have been in a million places, and you'll have to watch me and Jacob on Jacob's podcast when he decides to invite me to talk about my preacher days. But I've been in some situations where, like, I felt like a big deal. And I've always, like, I've never felt like in the right place until I found the Mises Caucus. Because every single person I meet, like, literally, I've kissed Jacob's face.
Several times.
Because I, like, it's not instigation. It's just like, yo, I'm so fucking glad that you're my friend. I don't care how gay it looks. That's just, I literally tell dudes all the time I love them because I sincerely do. Like, that shit has changed my life. I've felt like a political misfit for so long, where I found people are like, hey, we don't all agree all the time. We all fight amongst each other a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks we're like a hive mind, but realistically, we're like, we go at each other sometimes. I mean, probably regularly.
That's what family does. You know what I mean?
Exactly. This is a place where, like, all right, legit, me and my girl eloped. And before we have a wedding ceremony with our family, we're having a ceremony at the Whiskey Rebellion event in July.
This might be your greatest accomplishment in life.
Oh, yes. I licked Tom Woods at the PA convention.
You gotta explain that
later.
Dude. If you want to finish what you're talking about.
But I'm just saying, like, I there's a difference between, like, a house and a home, right? So, like, politically, I had felt like I had built my house. I followed Michael Malice for a long time, right? Like, he's one of my big influences. And, like, from the Red Eye days, I own all his books. Like, that shit has framed the way I live my life, the way I raise my kids. You know what I mean? Like, I never gave my kids rules. My son just graduated high school on Wednesday. He's already got a full-time job. He's going to college. I've, like, literally never punished this kid. I've given him space to, like, make mistakes, right? When him and his friends want to fucking have a party, I'm like, hey, you can all come here and drink and no one leaves. And guess what? None of his friends have gotten in trouble. I used to work out a bunch, and in the fitness world, there's, like, this whole tag line. It's like, it's a lifestyle, right? And I always thought that was corny as shit because it's just people who take steroids all year. But when it came to, like, liberty people, I was like, yo, like, really, these are people who are living it out. These are people who are fighting the fight. These are activists. They're people who are building fucking chicken coops and have solar panels on their house. They're people who are like, hey, I could live for 2 months without having to go to the grocery store. I'm like, yo, I want to talk to you, right? Because in my head, that's the ideal. And I've never felt more comfortable than I do in the LPPA, and specifically with the Mises Caucus. Like, if you're a MECAUC and I haven't kissed you, I owe you one, and I will when I see you. Then
right
you're
here.
there,
I'm ready.
And
my
you're
lips
legal.
are ready. They're right here.
You. I'll kiss you right on the lips, bro. I'll give you a little bit of tongue if you want.
That even better. Now I'm even more excited.
Oh god.
My wife's listening, by the way. She's like, yeah, he probably will.
Yeah, no, I mean, Anthony's the type of person that when he says he's going to do something, like, you don't go, it's a funny joke. You're like, no, this motherfucker's going to do it.
Yeah, I'm just that guy.
Yeah, but no, I know what you mean. Like, I remember, like, I feel like this is, we all have probably similar experiences, even if we came from different backgrounds. But I know, like, I don't feel different today than I was maybe like 6 years ago before I became a libertarian, which was largely by meeting people in the Mises Caucus. It's not like I became a different person. And even like the things I care about in terms of like politics and philosophy, they haven't really changed. It's just like I was sort of a misfit, and I thought that the closest approximation to what I believed was to be found on the left. I was a registered Democrat. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't agree with everything that they pushed, but I thought it was like mostly right. You know, and really like the only thing I've really changed is like I have a better understanding of economics, but like my views, my views on war, my views on violence, my views on human flourishing, my heart, like who I am, like I haven't changed. I've just like, you know, and the reason why, uh, I think like the libertarian message really like, you know, planted deep roots into me when I first encountered it was because it was sort of like things that I had always known deep down, but just didn't really have the sort of like precise like political, economic, scientific language to sort of like uh to express. So yeah, and when you get into these spheres, like suddenly you meet a lot of people that like even if you like we're all so different and yet like we have that sort of same experience where like you know we had the wool pulled off of our eyes and we you know, and like this isn't trying to figure out the right words. Like this isn't like some kind of hobby. You know what I mean? Like when people are part of this space, it's not like people are doing it because it's like the cool thing to do. It's like people are like, you know what? Rather than, you know, I mean, and not that we don't have fun, but like we all sacrifice hours of our lives to this. You know what I mean? Like the time that we could be spending with our families, time that we could be spending going out there and trying to make more money, get ahead in our careers, time that we could be spending you know, doing just having fun, you know, going out and doing things that we enjoy. But we instead put that time and that money and our skills into this space because like we believe in a higher call and a higher mission, and we think that these ideas are important, and we think that we think that society is, you know, is hurtling towards a cliff, and we're not going to be the ones that you know sit silently on the sidelines and you know 20 years from now regret not doing anything and go, well, what if we had done something, what if we had all stood up and said no, you know. So I definitely you know appreciate and empathize a lot with, you know, the things you both of you said. You know,
think about this for a second. I'm going to interrupt you, but realistically, think about this for a second. Leftism to a reasonable person sounds appealing, right? Hey,
yeah,
you have to put in minimal effort. Daddy government will take care of everything. So to someone who's struggling, that sounds great. But when you hear a legitimate message of liberty where it's like, hey, what if you were responsible for yourself? What if your community was responsible for itself? What if instead of cops that pull us over for bullshit because they need to hit certain quotas, we had private security that made sure no bullshit happened in our neighborhood? Wouldn't you invest more money in that than the money that comes out of your paycheck? When you start to hear that message and you think about, hey, what's the worst possible outcome for the cathedral? That people become self-aware and people start to think for themselves and start to want to be responsible for themselves. Think about COVID. They never stressed taking care of yourself. They never stressed eating well or get to the gym if you can or take a fucking walk. They were like, take a vaccine.
That was anti-science.
Yes,
you were censored if you went out there and said like, you know, pointed out like, hey, this virus seems to be especially deadly to people who are overweight and who aren't and like, hey, you know, maybe all of us being stuck inside our homes and not going out and getting sunlight and vitamin D and exercising and stuff, like maybe these have, you know, unforeseen, unintended consequences towards, you know, like I actually think that we sort of crippled the immune systems of millions of people, and then when they inevitably got COVID, it was worse for them than if they had been, you know, encouraged to take a different approach in the months leading up.
A new study just came out that said that severe COVID is more rare in unvaccinated people than vaccinated people by a long shot. And if you had said that on Twitter, you'd have been banned. The majority of the narrative is always going to be geared towards the state because the media is just another arm of the state, right? So if you listen to the media narrative, you're going to fall into the category of the NPC. You're not engaged at all. And you can put your fucking flags up in your bio or your hashtag, whatever matters to you. But realistically, like, what are you doing in your real life? How are you living that out? Right? Like, we could go a whole crazy way with all this. We could go compare January 6th prisoners to Black Lives Matter rioters and all that shit. And it's all dependent on the narrative. The most important thing, like, I hate when people say woke, because in my opinion, I'm like, woke people are like us. Like, we're the people who have like figured out, like, hey, the game is, we're playing against the fucking biggest casino in the world.
Red pill.
And and it's easy to be like, hey, the Democrats fucking suck, so I'm just gonna go Republican. Because Libertarian is not like really understood in the proper way in the mainstream narrative. But I think now with the people in charge and the powers that be, I think we've seen it in Pennsylvania. We're seeing it on a national level now where, like, hey, we're not afraid to say the thing that everybody thinks, but you're too pussy to say. Like, we're going to tell you that's bullshit.
No one's really inspired or persuaded by pandering. You know what I mean? Like why? Like, so if you try to
signaling gains you no one.
So like if you try to go to Democrats and sell yourselves as, oh, we're like the Democrat light, and you know we're just like you on these things, but then these other things, well, no, we don't do that. We're actually libertarian. Like, that doesn't going to convince them to change. They're going to be like, well, okay, I agree with you on these things, but I could just stay where I'm at. And they agree with me on everything, so that's just what I'm going to do.
And that's why Gary Johnson did not bring in new members when he ran, because he basically was like Democrat, Republican light, like we're moderates, you know. We are the best of conservatives and the best of liberals.
No. He said we're fiscally conservative and socially liberal. That was worse than the Aleppo moment to me, honestly. In my opinion, that was Gary Johnson's "we have to be anti-racist" tweet.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, bro, you're a Republican. Stop it. That's not even, and you picked a fucking Warhawk to be your VP.
No, but you know what?
And then what does the LP follow it with? Joe Jorgensen. The best thing they did was ask Spike Cohen to run for VP. But if you paid attention to recent conversations, when he was on the Patrick Bet-David podcast, he talked about their relationship. They were like, literally told him he couldn't speak. Yeah. They're like, sorry, your ideas are too dangerous.
No, and you know,
that's crazy.
Like, so, like, what and persuaded?
He's like a soft one of us. Like, Spike is one of us, but he also plays it so well. Yeah. Like, he's one of the best people we have.
Spike is a blue-pilled edgelord. It's a complete contradiction in terms, but like, it's kind of what he is. Like, he's like he wants to get along with people and reach like everybody and not turn people off, but also like he can't help but like he shit. And like, I actually think he does it right. Like, I don't mind edgelording and shit posting. I just prefer if you're gonna do it, like Spike does that, just target the politicians, target go after the ATF, go after the Department of Homeland Security, go after ICE, like troll them all day long. You know what I mean? That's a productive use of those skills.
Funny story. I'm friends with Spike now, but actually he didn't get into that voluntarily. Our wives are like our friends now.
Oh, cool.
So they talk to each other all the time. So me and Spike are kind of friends by like, they like each other. So they talk about clothes and makeup and shit. It's weird. It's a language I don't understand, but whatever. Tasha's awesome. They're one of my favorite couples in the whole world.
I don't think I would have to push back a little bit here, because like I kind of subscribe to the Michael Malice definition of red pilled and blue pilled. I would not call Spike Cohen blue pilled. I would definitely call him red pilled, because like the way
I wouldn't call him blue pilled either.
Yeah, like because the way I understand blue pilled is you kind of think maybe that the system cares about you.
Maybe like he's a pragmatic edgelord. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
That's probably more fair.
Yeah. That's what I was going for. But it's like we have to tell the truth and trust that people are going to respond to it. Like one of the things I used to care about a lot, and I still do. Like and a lot of Bernie Sanders people did. Like we were really upset that we're getting out into the economy and we're like, man, things cost way more than they used to. Wages have not gone up, but look at all of these huge corporations, and their bottom lines keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and and they keep getting richer and richer, and the 1% keeps on it is hoarding all of this wealth while the middle class is shrinking, and the lower class is left hung out to dry. So that is a problem, right? And that is a problem libertarians should address, because that causes, like, when you have severe income inequality in a society, it's incredibly destabilizing. Like that create that if you push that to its eventual end, like you'll get people rioting on the streets because bread costs $50 and they're getting paid like pennies. But what was explained to me, what brought me over, was like, okay, yeah, those are things that you should care about, but trying to use government to fix it isn't going to work, because government's the source of the problem. Because let's explain the Federal Reserve and our monetary policy and how that causes rapid inflation, and how then that cheap money goes from banks to these corporations to bail them out when they play reckless games that they'd usually get punished for, but under our system they don't. And so once I was given the truth, it's like, oh, like, okay, so you're not like coming to me and telling me that like the things I care about are wrong. You're saying that I have the wrong prescription of where the problem came from and how to solve it. And like that's what we have to do for people, is to say, like, here's an issue you care about. Here's why the Democrats or the Republicans are wrong about it, and here are the actual answers that libertarians have. And by the way, like, this is true for all other issues, whether you care about them or not.
So let me ask you a question. If you had your salary right now and you got 100% of your salary and you owned 100% of your property and you lived, all right, so I'll use my example. There's one town between me and Philadelphia, right? So if in my ideal world, I have private security and I don't have police, I have people that have my best interests at heart, then, right, I'm sort of going to be invested in like the town next to me and the town next to that, right? Because if there's a problem 2 towns over from me and the town between me and the problem isn't prepared for the problem, that problem's going to hit me pretty quickly. So if we live in an environment where it's a voluntary association, where, hey, this is our neighborhood, here's how much we all make collectively, here's how we break that down, whatever, here's the people we're going to hire to protect us, here's how much we're going to invest in other communities. Why? Because it's in our best interest to help those communities so anything bad that happened there doesn't come our way. It's almost a form of civil defense to invest in communities beyond your own. And also, people would be doing it voluntarily, not because it's $6 coming out of their check every 2 weeks. See what I'm saying? So for me,
yeah,
finding people who agree with that, I'm like, let's go. I'm one of my few friends who is kind of cheering for a collapse, because we're an empire. And empires fall, and 2 signs of collapse of empires is their currency means nothing, i.e. fiat currency, which we're living under. We've printed more money in the last few years than has ever existed, and decadence, right?
yeah.
So like, what do we stress? We stress transgender, purple-haired, lesbian, queer, pansexual, BIPOCs, whatever the fuck that means. It's hieroglyphics. It's language you can't understand. That's decadence. We are an empire on the verge of collapse.
You know what I really hate about it's like we're in the middle of Pride Month and stuff, and like you're talking about like decadence being like the collapse of society, and like I don't even think, and like I'm a conservative Christian right now, so it's weird to hear me saying these things. I don't even think that like being trans or being gay are like necessarily like examples of like being degenerate or living in decadence. It's like it's more the way the left takes those uh attributes of people's identities and then like blows them up into this weird like I don't know, like this weird kind of creepy hyper-sexualized like celebration and culture that they want to push down on everybody else. Meanwhile, like I know tons of people in the whatever you want to call it, LGBT, GSM, I don't even say community, just people who are like that, you know, like part of their identity is that they're trans or that they're gay. And like they don't live like that. They live in pretty much like very similar kind of like maybe quote unquote traditional lifestyles. Like the only difference between how I live my life and how they live their life is basically what they do in the bedroom.
Yeah,
Like
their sense of morality is like is almost the exact same as most people's. But the problem is like there's the loud minority, you know, that overpowers, you know, the majority of people that are just like normal, just really normal, other than maybe like their sexual preferences or whatnot. Like I would almost, I mean, I would like to see like numbers on this, but I would guess that like most like gays and most trans people are probably like, no, don't bring your kids to these fucking drag shows.
right.
Like
Yeah.
that's so weird.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
but here's the thing: identity politics plays to emotions.
Yeah.
It doesn't play to principle. So when you think about it in those terms and you see what's happening, they're trying to set it up so they can separate children from parents. Because where does emotion and principle, what separates emotion and principle? Maturity, right? So kids run off emotion. Dude, think about this way. I'm 39 years old, right? I'm a married man now, but I'm a fucking perv still. Like I get on my wife's nerves, right? But when I was 28, I was worse, and when I was 18, it was even worse, right? So like literally over the course of time, I'm almost 40 years old and emotion still drives me at times. But also I have enough experience to have principles that even if sometimes I act on impulse, 98% of the time I'm acting on principle. They don't want children to get to the point where they have principle. They want them to get to the point where like, hey, everybody acts on emotion. We need to set logic aside. And that's what people like us need to prevent. That's the importance of the battle we're in. And that's why I take saying bold shit. That's why you have to have some balls. You have to be able to say the shit that other people are afraid to say.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you look back at moments in history where change happened, and it didn't come from people asking nicely or by saying the most lukewarm thing possible, right? Like what ended slavery? Did slavery end because abolitionists were out there like, hey guys, you know, like yeah, you got these slaves and like, hey, you're giving them a home and what else would they do? But like maybe you could like, I don't know, have slightly less slaves or like, maybe like some of us think you shouldn't have any slaves, but like we're not trying to push that radical a message. Like maybe you should just have, slightly less slaves. I mean, I just, it's like, no, abolitionists were like slavery is a blight upon human society and owning another human being is like one of the most depraved things that you could do. And and then they set up the Underground Railroad and they're literally like smuggling slaves out of the southern states up to the north to give them their freedom.
Could you imagine if they were saying that if they're saying we're socially abolitionist and fiscally confederate?
That's actually a fucking. We need to clip that. That's hilarious.
Right, but it's like it doesn't. That doesn't do anything. It's just like
also how many like. All right, I will never try to like minimize slavery, but also there were in the same time as slavery, there were plenty of people that were considered slaves that were actually people who were like under contract as employees, where they like lived in a place and made a certain amount of money for an extended period of time. And sometimes that was because they owed money or something like that. But also, it's different than just like, hey, we have like 12 Africans in a fucking shed in our backyard. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's abhorrent. Nobody wants to see that shit. But also, how many Mexicans work on farms and no one complains?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So you have to be honest. And just me saying that, people are going to say that I'm racist, or I'm like, they're going to talk shit about that opinion for sure. And it's an honest opinion. I'm a kid of immigrants, and I'm like, hey, borders are like private property. There should be some sort of like sponsorship shit. And if that system was in place when my grandfather was like, hey, me and my kid are going to America, I wouldn't be here, and I still believe that. It's fine.
Well, how sad is it that like some undocumented immigrant workers who have no education probably provide for themselves more and contribute more economically to society than people who have gone through our educational system, gone through college, and now it's like, they get degrees in fields where they can't get jobs, and they're living on the public dole, and they're out there screeching about these dumb culture war issues and stuff, and it's just like it's our system is so broken, and I think a lot of people are like, we have such an opportunity right now, like, because like, although I agree, like, things are getting worse, it's sort of like now, like, 20 years ago, trying to preach radical libertarianism was a bit harder because society was a little bit more stable, right? But right now, like, shit's kind of falling apart, and so people are kind of like trying to make sense of it. So we have to seize this opportunity to run, like, so this is what we're doing in the Libertarian Party, right? It's like we're running candidates to go out there and speak to their communities and talk to them about these ideas. We're building in the party and in the Macy's caucus like this community of people who that transcends political action. Like, like, we help each other out. We have this like infrastructure and network of people who, like, if you're in trouble or you need help with something, like, we band together and help whoever needs help. We talk to each other and give each other tips about like farming or agorism, or like avoiding paying taxes, or how do I get an unserialized gun, for what I mean? It's like all these like all these different activities happening under one umbrella, and we have the opportunity to go out there and reach people with both the message and this growing community. And I think that's Heiss has talked about this a lot. Like, it's that like feedback loop that the Ron Paul revolution had, but it died out because it was just centered around one man. But now that we have it, I think, going through the caucus and now through the LP, it's something that like we have a really big opportunity to, before whatever inevitable collapse economically, politically, whatever happens, to get as many people aware of what's going on and preparing for what's going on, both at home and in their communities. And that's it's a wonderful, amazing, like humbling thing to be part of, right? Like, sometimes I just wake up in the morning and just go like wow, like I can't, like 5 years ago, to think that I would be part of something like this today is wild. Like, just completely wild. And like the things that we've all been through over the past few years, I mean, it's just like, I mean, you couldn't make the shit up that we've all collectively gone through.
Dude, if someone told me that the government was going to start locking people in their houses and stuff, I would not have believed you 5 years ago. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah, and people on left and right are more open to our ideas, and like imagine trying to talk to conservatives 5 years ago about how cops are thugs who will enforce unconstitutional laws and will lock you in your homes or take away your guns or arrest you for going to the park or going into the grocery store. Or imagine talking to people on the left and about this. Maybe I know there's a lot of people on the left who are out there trying to push gun legislation, but there's a surprisingly growing amount of people on the left who are becoming pro Second Amendment and pro gun ownership. Like it's a small minority right now, but as someone who came from the left and they used to be like non-existent, and now that there's like a small faction within the left who kind of like go, okay, we want to defund the police and we think the government's fascist, and like, yeah, maybe we do need the right to defend ourselves. like you know what I mean? It's just saying, like, these are conversations that you couldn't even begin to have 5-10 years ago, and now I can even talk to someone like my sister who is like as left can be and used to be as rabidly anti-gun as anyone could be, and now she's like, no, I kind of get it.
Oh, can we put a pin in the gun conversation for a second, because I've been holding on to something for like a hot minute. If the last 2 years have taught us anything, it's taught us that we live in an NPC culture, right? Like, in my opinion, the free thinkers are the prophets of our time. Like, when you're a Bible guy, in my opinion, those guys were like kind of the libertarians and anarchists of their time. They were the people who needed to scream the crazy shit from the mountaintop to get attention, so people would listen and they would get knocked loose from the fucking NPC ideas they had stuck in their head. It's our responsibility as a group of people, a family, in my opinion, a family of people who give a shit about liberty and give a shit about people and give a shit about the culture and the direction of our society as a whole. Like, it's up to us to say the shit we need to say. And when it comes to the gun thing, this is a whole, you can see what's happening right now, right? It used to be back in the day, so I'm older than you guys, but gun violence has happened forever. And they used to call them unmarked guns when the serial numbers were scratched off. The reason they call them ghost guns now is because you can 3D print guns and they don't have serial numbers. So they're laying the groundwork now.
What's a serial number?
Exactly. Right? They're laying the groundwork now for the shit that they realized was going to happen. But realistically, who's going to come for your guns? There's no database of who has guns. And if cops start going door to door, the people that have guns are going to kill the cops. And we outnumber them.
In Minecraft.
So hey, fuck around and find out, boys, but you live in our neighborhoods. It's probably not in your best interest. So if the government's like, hey, go take their guns, you should probably be like, hey, I kind of quit right now.
Right. I can just imagine. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. In Minecraft, of course, but also completely seriously.
I've never played Minecraft, so.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's like I don't want to wait. Like, I can't help. Like, I always end up quoting the Bible. I can't help myself. But like, imagine like Moses going into Egypt, like the biggest like state of like that time, and going up to him, like one guy by himself, being like, you're gonna free all your slaves, and we're gonna leave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like we need, like whether or not you believe in that story or not in a real sense, like that's kind of the archetype of what we need to embody, right? Like we need to go, like we have to go to these totalitarian rulers and be like, you know what? No, like, these people, like they're my people, and I am going to take them out of your hands, and I'm going to help lead us to like a better future. Like we have to have that kind of mentality that like we're trying to rescue civilization from this falling empire.
And think about the heroes of like the last few generations, right? Like I think about Bob Marley. He got shot because he was preaching against like the people who are oppressing his family members. And that motherfucker did a show that night. He got shot. Didn't even tell people he got shot. He did a show.
Wasn't that in Pittsburgh?
Right? Yeah, it was. I think about people who have like paved the way for us. And it's like, hey, you have to really make a choice. Do you want to just go through life and like we all die at the end? Or do you want to be like, hey, this thing is like kind of worth my life. So like I don't care what I have to do. I'm gonna defend this thing. And this is the hill I'm gonna die on.
You know what I think
I don't think a lot of people have that passion anymore.
But I think they're like I think some people are starting to get back to that though, because I think up until COVID, people were living life in a sort of like in a bit of a daze, right? And then when the pandemic hit, people were just so focused on stopping the spread and saving lives. But so many people eventually got to the point where they said, you know what, like life is not worth living if all we're doing is like just day after day just focused on survival, and that's like all we do. Like you like not only is that bad for the soul, like society doesn't work like that. Like it just doesn't. Like you know, and we're feeling the harsh economic and social consequences of those, you know, forced lockdowns now. And I think, you know, people are more open to that idea that like, you know what, yeah, like, you know, I mean, we're not that far removed from, I mean, think about it. Think about the history of this country. Like, you know, so like 250 some odd years ago, like people actually cared so much about their freedom that they were willing to die for it. Like we're not that far removed from it.
We got soft.
You know what? Yeah, but you know what?
That's what happened.
Good times create weak men, but the weak men have created some hard times, and I think the strong men and women, and everything in between, they're coming back. You know what I mean?
Well, think about it this
It's
way.
a good thing those weak men aren't running the Libertarian Party anymore.
Yeah,
exactly.
Amen to that. Amen
but
to. I got assaulted.
Is there a better group of people that you would want to be in the fucking foxhole with?
No.
Honestly.
No.
No. You couldn't, bro, you couldn't put me in a platoon that I would be as comfortable as I would be next to any dude or woman in the Mises caucus. Honestly.
The sense of community is astounding. It really is. Like when I was in Reno, man, like I feel like I could talk to like almost anybody like so easily. It was crazy.
And if you think about it, we're all wired for a community, right? Here's the problem like humans have. So like in chimpanzee communities, when they hit certain numbers, they recognize it's unsustainable. So they send like a group of their community out to start a new community, and they give them resources to do it. We just like build another floor on a building, right?
Yeah.
And like further detach ourselves from community. So the most important thing, it's like if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, why does NA or AA work? Did you ever hear of the rat park experiments? They put rats in tanks, right? If they put a rat in a tank by itself, they gave it 2 water bottles. One had cocaine in it, one had water in it. If the rat was by itself, it would go to the cocaine 95% of the time. If you put the same 2 water bottles in a tank with multiple rats, they would go to the cocaine bottle like 0.01% of the time. They would go there by accident because it didn't even smell of interest to them because they were tied into community. That's how AA works. That's how the church works. That's how all this shit works. But also, in every other environment but the one that we're in, you can have ideological differences and you're not going to be excommunicated. If you're an AA member and you're like, hey, I have a weed card, they're going to be like, you're not sober, right? And if you used to shoot heroin, but now you have a glass of wine once in a while at dinner, You're not going to be accepted in the NA community. If you're a Republican, but you think January 6th was a fucking coup, right? Like, there's all kinds of conditions on relationships when it comes to ideology. When it comes to the Mises Caucus, there are none of those barriers.
No.
That is my favorite thing about these people, is
And it's
that
so
there are
stupid
none
that
of those
the
barriers.
critics, the critics are like, oh, it's all a bunch of fucking white reactionaries, and I'm just like, dude, like, yeah,
You have no
no, listen,
idea who they are.
like, here's the thing, like, because the leadership was so rabidly anti anyone who was to the right of Spike Cohen.
We are
And
reacting
Justin
to it.
Amash, like
Right.
the highest concentration of more right of center libertarians was in the Mises Caucus, because where else did they have to go? They were being shunned and shit on everywhere else. But there's also plenty of people who are maybe more center, or even who are like more left, or like I know some people who have basically said that like they're basically, Ben, like you've described yourself sort of as like more like culturally like left, almost SJW
Absolutely.
sort of in
Yeah,
your
it's
leanings
all
and
about
stuff.
hierarchy of outrage, in my opinion. And you can be like a left-leaning, I think culturally left-leaning libertarian, like maybe I would describe myself, but like at the end of the day, the cultural stuff or like the social stuff is so low on my hierarchy of outrage. I care about what is in the Mises Caucus like planks. Like that's the shit that's at the top of my
Like maybe
priority list.
it's like maybe we should stop locking people in cages and stop dropping bombs on people halfway across the world and locking people in their homes and waging economic war against the American people before we get like, before we start like trying to, I don't know, like normalize gender neutral bathrooms.
Right. And if
like,
you have some like right wing like social views, I could not give less of a fuck either. You know what I mean?
Like,
and then I like
Boy,
I have
I
this
love
like
you. Hey, I hate to interrupt. I love you. I gotta go.
All right, Anthony. Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, dude,
see you,
I love
Anthony.
you. Yo,
it was
I'm
great
gonna kiss
meeting you.
I'm gonna kiss you on the mouth, Ben, next time I see you.
I'm holding you to that, literally.
We agreed. We're gonna make out.
Oh, all right.
That's our Eastern Vice Chair, everybody.
He's a cool dude. I got to get going in a couple minutes as well. But to finish my thought, I think that the lack of giving a fuck that I have, and that a lot of people I think in the Mises Caucus have, often gets interpreted as bigotry by emotionally immature people.
Yeah.
And that's we're I think the more and more the Mises Caucus is, taking over state affiliates and taking over, national positions, the less we can worry about the critics. I think it's still really fun to talk about like our idiot critics, but they're irrelevant
them all. Like honestly, like they're not even. Yeah, they're so irrelevant that I literally have. And it's not because, listen, I don't want to live in an echo chamber, but those people aren't honest actors who want to have a conversation. Like they're just people who. So it's like, like there's plenty of people. Even like here in PA, like there's guys like Tim McMaster, guys like Dr. Chuck Moulton, people who are not Mises Caucus, who are even sometimes critical of us, but they're not like losers.
They're not like, fuck you all. They're
like,
it's fair criticism, man. And I mean, you can. I think you should only be in the Libertarian Party if you're prepared to give and receive criticism. And I think for too long there were too many people in the party that did not meet that description.
100% agree. Last question before we hop off here, man. Like, what are you most excited about? Like going, like and what do you think we should focus on, sort of like this next year, like here in PA, like so like with the PA Mises Caucus, and so like what are the ways that you're getting plugged in, and like that we should be encouraging other people to get plugged in, kind of like between now and maybe like next convention. Like we have a lot of people running campaigns. I know there's people doing working on some issue coalition stuff. Like, is there anything you're particularly excited about or that you want to encourage people to do?
Yeah, so I would say like at the top of my most excited list, it's definitely, and it's not even like state related or this year, but it would be a Dave Smith presidential campaign. But aside from that, I would say attacking local offices like we've kind of been doing, like even before the Mises Caucus took over Pennsylvania, this thing called the Molten Maneuver was garnering a lot of success for our local candidates, where we would just kind of go after races that were easy to win, and we would send letters to libertarians, registered libertarians, and that's how you became constable.
That's how I became a cop.
Yeah.
I'm a freaking pig. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, this podcast, I noticed the smell of bacon ever since this podcast started. So
yeah.
But
a lot of oink oinks and stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. And we have so many people who are running for state rep positions now. We got Tim McMaster, Lieutenant Governor, Matt Hackenberg for governor. Who's our Senate candidate again? Is it Eric
Gerhardt?
Eric Gerhardt. One race I think is going to be really interesting, and we got to have him on the show sometime. Is Dave Womack, because his story about how he's in my county, and how he was elected to city council, then told he couldn't serve because of his criminal background, but he can run for Congress, and if he was elected, he could serve on Congress. It's what the fuck?
And then there's a similar thing happening to Kate Crosby right now.
Yeah, Kate Crosby. Yeah, we have to have her on too. So,
we should have both of them on.
Yeah, we should. We should. That would be cool to have them both on. Yeah, because that's such a underrated issue that libertarians I think sometimes like to shy away from, but we shouldn't. Which is the rights of people who have criminal records, because a lot of these people are just people who were young and made stupid mistakes, and now their life is ruined. I mean, it's sad, but I know you got a hard stop here, and we should wrap up here. And where can people, I know you're involved in the Lancaster Libertarian Party, so maybe do you want to plug the Lancaster Party quick, and any other plugs or things that you want to say before we hop off?
LPLCPA.org or .com. I forget if it's .org or .com, but that's the Lancaster County affiliate website. Go check it out, especially if you're in the Lancaster area. We need as much help as we can possibly get. A lot of great people in the Lancaster LP, even though a lot of them aren't necessarily Mises. They're hardworking libertarians, and they're all really nice people. And I'm glad to be a part of that group of people as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Ben Heckman_, no spaces, no caps. And really the only thing I'm active on. So that's probably the only plug I would have.
Cool. All right. And of course, anybody watching, if you haven't already, join, join the Libertarian Party. Go to LP, probably LP.org/join or lp.com/join. Become a member of the Libertarian Party. I think you can do it for as little as $5 a month or $25 a year. And then LPPA, .org. And if you want to learn more about the Mises Caucus and what we're about, that's right there on the screen, lpmisescaucus.com or takehumanaction.com, and learn more about us and what we're doing, and how we're growing the Libertarian Party and running candidates, and we got a lot of exciting projects and activism at work to help fight for your freedom and your rights, and shrink back this Leviathan state so that you can have true freedom. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Ben for hopping on, and you, Anthony for hopping on too. I know he's gone. And thanks everybody, and remember, go out, take human action.